you fascinated by tales of daring heists and incredible feats of criminal cunning? Have you ever wondered how some of the biggest bank robberies in history were pulled off? From high-tech hacks to old-fashioned stick-ups, the world has seen some truly remarkable bank heists over the years. In this video, we'll take a look at the 5 most impressive bank heists of all time. How did these master criminals outsmart the banks and law enforcement agencies? What did they do with their ill-gotten gains? And could you ever pull off a heist like these? Let's find out. Number 1. The $100 million Antwerp Heist. Antwerp's Diamond District is a fortress of security, guarding billions in precious gems each year. But in 2003, a daring gang of thieves shattered that illusion, pulling off one of the most audacious heists in history. Led by the notorious Leonardo Notarbartolo, aka the Turin School, this band of rogues managed to make off with an incredible $100 million in diamonds, a fortune that has never been recovered. Mastermind or pawn? The Antwerp diamond heist left authorities scratching their heads, and Leonardo Notarbartolo was at the center of a storm. While police were convinced he was the heist's mastermind, Notarbartolo claimed he was only a pawn, contacted by an anonymous diamond dealer who orchestrated the entire operation. According to his story, he was paid to take photographs of the vault's security system, from which the dealer created a replica to help plan the heist. Notarbartolo then gathered a gang of skilled Italian jewel thieves and, using the replica vault, penetrated the 10 layers of security that had previously been thought impenetrable. Despite police skepticism, there is no concrete evidence to disprove his claim, leaving the true story of the Antwerp diamond heist shrouded in mystery. The robbers used aluminum to fool the magnetic field and strip the plastic off the sensor circuit wires to bypass the security system. They loaded up bags of diamonds and jewels, a process that took a painstaking 2 hours. However, the thieves' luck ran out when one gang member, Pedro Tavano, also known as one of Notarbartolo's lifelong friends, betrayed the group. The pressure proved too much for another accomplice, Speedy, who suffered a panic attack after unloading the loot into his car and had to pull over. The robbers managed to bypass 10 layers of security, raiding 100 of the 189 safe deposit boxes with remarkable precision. To add insult to injury, not a single alarm went off during the heist, leaving authorities baffled. The world's only specialized diamond police, Patrick Pays, and AGM, Debris Kerr, were called in to investigate. Despite the vault's alarm company insisting that the system was fully functional, authorities eventually caught Notarbartolo by sifting through security footage. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but the mystery of the Antwerp diamond heist endures as one of the most daring and sophisticated robberies in history. Number 2. France's heist of the century. In 2018, French gangster Jacques Cassandra found himself in court for a heinous crime committed over 4 decades ago. The crime in question was the infamous heist of the century that shocked the world. What's more, police investigations have led them to believe that the mastermind behind this daring heist was none other than Marcy, the notorious mafioso. The events of July 16, 1976 saw a group of daring criminals rob a branch of the Société Générale, the 3rd largest bank in the southern city of Nice. The gang used tunnels underneath the city to gain access to the bank's basement vault, where they were able to partially destroy the floor to gain access to the treasures within. The Société Générale's account of the incident reveals that the brazen criminals spent the weekend leisurely perusing the vault's contents, even taking the time to picnic using the depositor's silverware. The case seemed like a closed book until investigators stumbled upon a manuscript hidden away in a notorious mafia figure's computer. Jacques, also known as Cassandra, had cleverly used a pen name to publish his writing, but the authorities quickly linked the author to the unsolved heist that had baffled them for years. Little did Jacques know that his assumed safety was nothing but a mirage, as the crime statute of limitations did not apply to charges of money laundering. He now stands trial, facing the consequences of his past actions. The mastermind had pulled off an intrinsically planned job, employing at least 6 accomplices and using 30 tanks of acetylene to fuel their welding torches. But what led to his downfall was his own pride, as he had often boasted about the robbery to his children. The once impenetrable criminal empire had now crumbled, leaving its kingpin with no place to hide. In a shocking twist of events, an inquiry had uncovered that he had not only splurged on furs worth tens of thousands of euros, but also offered a financial guarantee with 7 bars of gold. While he claims it was all part of a literary experiment, his lawyer, Cassandra Frederick Monterey, believes that a court cannot possibly convict someone on the basis of a novel. However, things are not looking good for Cassandra and his family, as they face a barrage of questions about their business dealings, including allegations of social security fraud and a real estate scam in Corsica. This is not the first time that Cassandra has been in court, having been previously arrested for his involvement in the notorious French Connection heroin trade, as well as a daring $1 million pharmacy robbery back in the early 1970s. The question now is, will he be able to talk his way out of his latest legal predicament? Only time will tell. Number 3. Brazilian bank robbers, $318 million. In a daring plot that would have made history, a gang of 16 men came within inches of pulling off Brazil's largest ever bank robbery, tunneling towards a vault containing a staggering 1 billion reals, or $318 million. The highly sophisticated tunnel led straight to the safe at a prominent Banco de Brazil branch in the country's financial capital, São Paulo. The group had been meticulously digging a tunnel for 4 months towards a vault containing a staggering 1 billion reals, or $318 million. The tunnel was equipped with sophisticated ventilation, lights, and reinforced with iron beams and wood. The gang members loaded the soil into sacks and carried it outside through an underground stormwater drain to avoid suspicion. The tunnel was about 1.5 meters high and reinforced with iron beams and wood. It was lined with plastic garbage bags to reduce dust and filled with food, water, special clothing, and digging tools. Despite the group being held in pretrial detention, it's hard to believe they dug the tunnel by hand. The alleged ringleader of the operation was Alceu Gomes Noriega, a 35-year-old man who had previously been implicated in an attempted robbery of a security van in Paraguay. With impressive equipment and months of planning, the group would have made off with the world's biggest heist had they not been caught just in time. Police Chief Fabio Panero Lopez exclaimed on Globo TV that it was the closest we've ever come to witnessing a large-scale robbery. The impressive feat of engineering harkened back memories of a similar tunnel robbery 12 years prior, where thieves made off with a staggering $70 million. The diggers in the previous attempt worked in carefully planned shifts from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m., with weekends off. What's more, 3 of the gang members involved in the recent attempt had already escaped from prison using tunnels complete with ventilation and lighting. It seems the art of tunneling has been refined over time, whether it's for stealing millions in cash or for orchestrating a $500 million cyber heist. Number 4. Central Bank of Iraq. In 2003, a daring and audacious heist took place that left the world in awe of the cunning and resourcefulness of the robbers. It involved the heavily guarded Central Bank of Iraq, which was considered impenetrable by many. Despite the bank's high security measures, a group of robbers managed to walk away with an astonishing $920 million. What made this heist stand out was the fact that it was executed without the use of any weapons, and the robbers did not even have to break into the bank. Instead, they used a forged note bearing the signature of then Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein, granting his son Qusay the authority to withdraw the funds. It was a daring and audacious move and left the entire city reeling. The group of masked robbers brazenly walked into the bank, flaunting their weapons and presenting a menacing note to the terrified employees. The haul they made was nothing short of incredible. Boxes overflowing with crisp $100 bills, expertly stamped with a seal that marked them as security money, as well as an assortment of euros, all adding up to a staggering sum of wealth. It took the robbers over 5 hours to complete the heist, as they methodically loaded the money onto waiting trucks, all while the hapless bank employees watched on, powerless to resist. The audacity of the robbers was matched only by the swift efficiency with which they disappeared into the night, leaving behind a trail of stunned witnesses and a city gripped by fear. The audacity of this heist has since earned it a place in the annals of history as one of the most brazen financial crimes of all time, orchestrated by none other than the notorious Saddam Hussein. This audacious act of defiance was not just a play for wealth, but also for power. The cunning plan had been years in the making, carefully crafted by a family of insiders. The robbery of the Central Bank of Iraq was a feat of unparalleled bravery and cunning. The world watched in awe as the robbers made off with an incredible amount of cash, leaving authorities dumbfounded as to their identities and their means of escape. The implications of the heist were far-reaching, challenging the very fabric of international law and order. As the years have gone by, the questions surrounding the heist have only grown more pressing. Who were these shadowy figures that pulled off such an audacious heist? How did they manage to evade detection and disappear into the shadows? And perhaps most importantly, where did they hide their bounty? The central bank heist was not simply a crime, but an epic game of high stakes, with the very fate of an entire nation hanging in the balance. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded of the ingenuity and daring that drove this incredible heist, and the mysterious figures that orchestrated it. Number 5. Dollar Cyber Heist, $500 million. In 2009, a group of cyber criminals from Eastern Europe embarked on a crime spree that would make them notorious in the world of banking. In a devastating cyber attack that lasted from 2009 to 2012, a group of Eastern European cyber criminals infiltrated over 100 banks across 30 countries, making off with as much as $1 billion in fraudulent transfers and hijacked ATM machines. Their weapon of choice? The infamous Trojan virus, Spy1, which infected over 50 million computers worldwide, causing nearly $1 billion in damage to individuals and financial institutions. One of the masterminds behind this massive cyber attack, Alexander Androvich Panin, was brought to justice after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud. But the damage was already done. The malware allowed the hackers to steal sensitive information, including bank account credentials, credit card information, passwords, and PINs, ultimately resulting in a trail of financial ruin for countless victims. A second man, an Algerian known as BX1, was also sentenced to 15 years for selling versions of Spy1 online and using the malware to steal financial information. The attackers began their heist by targeting Russian banks and then moved on to those in Germany, China, and the United States. But their days of unfettered success were numbered. Authorities caught up with them, and they were eventually brought to justice. Among them was Alexander Androvich Panin, also known as Elias Roy, Bodin Mon, and Harderman Online, who was the inventor of Spy-I. The FBI's relentless pursuit of cybercriminals has led to a major win as the agency arrested the notorious Spy-AI architect, Panin. Panin and his cohorts allegedly peddled the malware to cybercrime forums, earning millions through the wholesale theft of sensitive information from victims worldwide. The FBI special agent Mark Ray testified that Panin's spyware was sold at exorbitant prices ranging from $500 to $10,000, making him one of the most wanted cybercriminals in history. U.S. Attorney Sally Yates applauded the FBI's efforts, emphasizing that too many police agencies lack the necessary expertise to investigate cybercrime effectively. Traditional policing methods do not suffice in tracking down these modern-day bandits. As Martin Rosalur, the director of threat research at Trend Micro France, noted, it requires a unique skill set and trained personnel, which are in short supply. Panin's arrest marks a significant victory in the fight against cybercrime, and the FBI remains vigilant in its pursuit of other cybercriminals. As we celebrate this triumph, it's crucial to remember that cybercrime is a real and growing threat, and we must stay alert to safeguard our information. The stakes are high, as witnessed in France's heist of the century, where hackers stole millions from unsuspecting victims. Let's remain vigilant, and together we can stop these criminals in their tracks. These bank heists may be impressive in their scope and execution, but it's important to remember that they are ultimately acts of crime. The consequences of these actions extend beyond the monetary losses suffered by the banks and their customers. The individuals involved often face lengthy prison sentences, and the trauma experienced by the victims can last a lifetime. It's also worth noting that attempting to replicate any of these heists is both illegal and dangerous. So there you have it, folks, the 5 most impressive bank heists of all time. While these daring acts of thievery may make for thrilling stories, it's important to remember that crime doesn't pay. Let's leave the bank robbing to the movies and instead focus on using our skills for good. After all, there are plenty of ways to leave your mark on the world without breaking the law. See you in the next video.